Oh, I should probably unmute myself. Hello there, folks. Just a second, getting a feel for my audio. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, hi everybody. Tonight's stream is a bit different than normal. Um, I'm gonna be mapping, which hopefully it'll be interesting. We'll have to see, I guess. Uh, Here, let's see. Da, da, da. Well, I said I was going to be keeping things transparent for, uh, well, for this whole expedition. So here I go, mapping. Hope it's entertaining. Might not be. We'll have to see. If anyone wants to hop on the stream and talk or ask any questions, feel free to join. The link to join is pinned at the top of the chat. Also, since I'm sharing my screen, so there's some music, you'll also get to see the chat on screen, which don't usually see that, I guess. All right, let's hope this thing cooperates. So, zooming out, here's our little triangle of land. For those who may have missed my last stream, this is the Coyote Basin. It's where I'll be doing the majority of my fieldwork this summer, so might as well get to mapping it out. Okay. I have already started, but there's still a decent amount I gotta do. Howdy, Andrew. Yeah, today's going pretty well, actually. Just gonna be a wee bit busy, I suppose. So, let's see where to start. I guess I'll probably start by marking out the lower limits of the Morse information. That's where I'll be doing most of my field work, and it'll probably help chop off a large amount of area. Because I don't need to see anything below. This greenish gray stuff is the Sundance Formation. That's all oceanic. Everything below that is early Jurassic to Triassic in age. So it's way too old for what I need. Yes, I did have a wee chat with T-Rock. Honestly, the headache wasn't as bad as it usually is, so I don't know, that's probably something. Okay. This kind of rusty reddish color, that's what the barrier between the Sundance and the Morrison looks like. You can see it kind of comes up here. Then there might be a buried fault in that area. This looks like Morrison, but then this looks like Sundance. Rocks are complicated. Well, might as well start. Let's see here. Let's go with the yellow. go ahead and drag that over here. Oh. Okay. Ah, howdy, Caden. Hope you're doing well. All right. I want to start where I got a good eye on that boundary. So the Morrison out of space is kind of this rusty orangish color. And for anyone who's having trouble visualizing it, the rocks are kind of angled down into the earth at this point. So we're just going to follow the edge of the orange. And fair warning, this probably won't be a super exciting stream. Mapping stuff out is very important in geology, but it doesn't make it entertaining. And yes, this is in Google Earth Pro. It's pretty easy, and it has... yeah, it's pretty easy. It has decent enough tools for what I need. There are more professional softwares that people will use, like if they're going to publish a paper or something. But I'm probably not... Oh. Sorry. If I do publish on anything, I find it's not going to be for a while, so I don't really have to worry about that. All right, wait. Wait, no, is that Morrison there? See, this is the problem with these kind of bluffs. They can be a bit tricky. Okay, so it goes over here. And then... Oh, yeah. I guess I should probably explain that. I found a video of just D&D background music. I thought it'd be better than just having wide gaps of silence, you know? Sure, Andrew. It sounds like fun. I do have to go here in a minute. I just heard my laundry finish up. Let me just retrace. Retrace this boundary here. I'll go get my laundry and then can add you to the stream. Goes there. Yeah, I know I just started, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, and I gotta do laundry, so I'll be right back. It'll only take a minute. Enjoy the soothing tones of Oblivion Geology. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, folks. Let's see. We have an Ember and an Andrew. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey,
I heard there was going to be some dunking on T-Rock today, so I had to jump in.
that's always fun.
Sorry, I had laundry I had to go collect.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, life comes first.
Unfortunately. Dear. You really gonna. Why did I do this as a polygon?
Bloody polygons. I don't know if you said earlier, because the stream started like 8 minutes before I noticed it. How did that thing with the funding happen? Like, you mentioned it in group chat and whatnot, but like, what happened?
Sure. So I had my funding stream on Friday last week, and then last night, Grayson, Maya, and Tapioca, Tap decided to shout out the fundraiser on, Bad Science Sunday, and people donated like $400 total.
Hell yeah.
Which absolutely floored me. I was honestly practically in shock. And then so this will be a first for people in the audience hearing this. I was talking to my family about, the progress towards my funding. And my mom and stepdad decided to give me an early birthday present. They donated a few hundred towards my goal, and it officially has me at right about what my goal was.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I don't think I could think of a cooler birthday present than, here, go do science.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's always fun.
I didn't expect it at all. It completely floored me. I was already kind of a tearful mess, and yeah, I had a good old happy cry last night.
Hell
And a
yeah.
bit today. Because honestly, I wanted to go do this, but like I thought I would have to pay for all of it, and I knew it would. Like I wanted to do it, so I was going to do it anyway. But it would have put me under a bit of financial stress.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
By the
Traveling
end of the
always costs
summer.
way more than you think.
Yeah. But like with people's just unbelievable generosity, it's way less of a burden. Or it should be way less of a burden.
Yeah, and you've still got a little while before it's time to roll out, so people can still donate and get you even closer to that goal, or even like cover some overages, like if gas prices go up or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. And if anyone does want to if anyone does want to donate, there are links to the ways people can donate in the description. I also made a community post after the insistence of Lunar Regolith.
Good old me.
With all the links. Yeah. Yeah, it's basically official. I am going this summer. So
You're
I got to
gonna
get
go
on the
do
mapping,
thing.
get it ready.
Hell yeah. And you also mentioned that you found a person who's been there or something like that. Did I catch that?
Yes. So this is also a new development today for the folks in the audience.
Good news, everyone!
Yes. So last week I reached out to a local geologist from the area who has a lot of field experience. Go figure, in this rough area. And apparently, he knew the guy who found the femur in the collection. And apparently, the guy who found the femur showed him where it came from decades ago.
Well, that'll make things a bit simpler.
Yeah, So, this bone that I thought I would never find the original provenance for, he just knows where it is, and he said he'd be happy to show me this summer.
Hell yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Man, there's a lot of this like red plant growth here, and it's just covering all the rock.
Is that plant growth?
I believe so. There's some kinds of reddish plants that grow out there that just cover the earth. You can see little bits of rock peeking through.
What a curious thing. Although I have noticed, as I don't know if it's climate change or the sun slowly brightening or what the deal is, but there seems to be a lot more foliage and plant life that's got a reddish purple hue and less green every year.
You think?
Yeah, that could very well be due to heat stress or something. I mean, plants can only tolerate a certain range of temperatures.
Yeah, like maple trees. I know there are red maples, but I've had neighbors plant green maples, and then after they reach adult height, the outer leaves start turning purple while the underlayers remain green. It's trippy as shit.
Well,
maybe they're trying to adjust. Acclimatization. I probably butchered that.
Acclimate.
It's so hard to pronounce.
English is hard. It's a dick.
English is indeed hard.
Let's see. Andrew, you wanted to talk about stuff that I was talking with T-Rock about?
Yeah, so I noticed this kind of... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just being a silly. I said, did he say it looks like a maple leaf at any point?
No, but he really argued with me on how springs work, insisting that this one particular spring he found must be completely different from every other spring.
Yeah, that was
just
weird.
Completely asinine.
Oh my.
Okay then. Caden, you joined. Are you still there?
Yes. It was just
You haven't been murdered?
being quiet because you guys were having a conversation, and it would have been rude if I'd butted in.
Fair. Okay. So, Andrew, what was it?
Yeah, sorry. I know this is kind of improv, so I'm trying to think of what I want to talk about exactly.
Sure.
Well, it was interesting that part of the discussion where you were chatting with him about the springs, and yeah, that was a weird conversation. He also brought up some very bizarre. It was like when I first heard it, I had to go back and re-listen to it to kind of fully understand, or at least what I think fully understand what he's trying to say happened during the global flood scenario. He seems to think, because I brought up the common example of raindrop impressions and such in multiple geologic layers. So obviously, those layers must have been, or the sediments making up those layers must have been semi-cohesive and exposed to dry air at some point. So that's kind of inconsistent with a global submergence of the world underwater. And it seems like more and more of these younger creationists are tending towards this kind of beds idea that was proposed by Michael Ord a while ago, I think. It's what does it stand for? Briefly exposed diluvial sediments model, or something to that effect, where basically instead of a period of worldwide submergence, at least in the supposedly during the early part of the flood year, there would have been, according to these flood geologists, rising flood waters and a lot of tectonic activity happening at the same time. That would have it would have. Now, it seems pretty ad hoc, but it would have been like the flood waters periodically inundated parts of the continent and then retreated and left them exposed so they could accumulate these obvious subaerial exposure type deposits, and then cover them with water again so they would have had marine sediments and so on and so forth. And supposedly that's how, according to them, you get this mixture of depositional environments in the geologic record. Yeah, very contrived, trying to fit the data to the model instead of the other way around. Now, do you have any thoughts on that so far, or because that's, like I said, the one thing I was trying to wrap my head around that he was talking about, and of course he kind of put his own spin on it, and yeah, I had to go back and re-listen to it to fully make out what he was arguing, because he then talked about sediments and the whole continental sprint thing, obviously, and the sediments were, he used the words, they were forced out, or the water was forced out of the sediments, and that's how they were separated, and the water was somehow lighter than the coarser grained sediments, and that way they ended up on top and ran off the continents that way. And then like I said, it was very bizarre, his description of it. I don't want to seem like I'm rambling too much here, so someone else talk.
Well, I mean, I feel like as time goes on, young Earth creationists have to just accommodate more and more, and they keep falling back on different aspects of biology and geology and refuse to admit they've done that. I know Donnie has a really thorough documented record of this. He'll just continuously fall back when he's eventually proven wrong.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Also, sorry, this is interesting. These purplish layers, they're part of the cloverleaf formation. It seems like whatever these red plants are, they really don't like to grow there. That's kind of a useful cap, but that means that all of this is Morrison and it's just covered.
Maybe the soil in the cloverleaf deposits are too acidic.
I mean, it could be something to do with the soil.
Yeah, maybe.
I believe the Morrison in this area is mostly sandstone, but the Cloverleaf, I think, is mostly mudstone. So it could just be too thick.
Do you
Also,
happen to know if... Oh, sorry.
so as I'm 99% sure, most of everyone here knows that I'm LDS, correct?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that this is something that I know from being one is that I think a good majority of LDS people believe in the global flood. Now, I will admit that currently there is no evidence in the geologic record to support a flood of any magnitude similar to the one written about in the Bible.
Right.
That said, part of me wonders if, obviously, if the Bible's account is correct, where would all that evidence go, and why is there no, global flood deposit on every landmass? So, I've been thinking,
Mhm.
what if, the global flood wasn't, one event? What if there was, multiple large floods happening at relatively the same time on multiple continents?
I mean, that's an idea, but if that happened, we would probably see quite a few. Well, we would almost certainly see quite a few of those deposits. And
Yeah, what type deposit?
generally we can figure out the ages of flood deposits. So we would see a lot of floods at about the same time all over the world, and we don't really see that.
Sorry, I was just proposing an idea that makes a lot more sense than a single year long global flood that somehow did not produce enough heat to vaporize the granitic crust of the earth.
Oh yeah, one's definitely more reasonable than the other.
Yeah, you're fine to propose it. No need to apologize. It's just that that idea still doesn't fit with what we have.
Yeah. If
I mean,
anything, my guess
to
is
be
if
fair,
such
multiple floods
events.
have covered parts of the continents over time, but yeah, I don't know if continental scale floods of that magnitude would really afford here.
Could be also possible that. So, something that I've heard from being LDS is that, Adam and Eve, after they were kicked out of the garden, settled in an area that we now call Adamonde Amen in Missouri.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
maybe maybe the global flood mentioned in the Bible was one of the large floods like Glacial Lake Missoula or Lake Agassiz floods.
I mean, if I recall, there are flood deposits in at least some parts of the Middle East. Some parts of the Middle East that correlate to about the time frame that tropical floods supposedly took place. And they suggest that there was a really big flood in that area.
I mean, yeah, rivers and really big floods like that do happen from time to time.
Yeah, just doesn't seem to have been a global event. A big flood, yes, but not global.
Sorry about expressing my beliefs here.
You
No,
don't need to apologize, Cade. You're welcome to express your beliefs.
Okay.
It's just we address what you say. That's how conversations go.
I'm gonna say this: unless evidence comes out that because obviously something had to have happened to inspire the flood event in the Bible, global or not.
sure.
Unless
probably.
evidence comes out that, like, there was, in fact, a giant global flood 4,400 years ago, I'm just gonna say it never happened. At least not as depicted.
Yeah, not a global one.
That's something I've always wondered is, like, what if, like, some of the books in the Bible are actually meant to be set earlier than people think they're actually set?
Yeah, that's one of the issues with translations that we've found. There's some references to ancient kings, for example, where it'll say this king reigned 1,000 years ago, but then another book telling the same story will say 10,000 years ago. Like there's a lot of occasions where extra zeros get added or subtracted. It's super frickin' common.
Hmm.
For example,
Isn't there also some error introduced by? Didn't the ancient people of the area have a different way of counting? Like it was base
the
6 or base 12?
Babylonians were base 12, and much of the Septuagint and the Masoretic texts were basically cut and pastes from the Babylonian texts. Like Genesis is literally the legend of Marduk.
Okay.
The creation
Also-
myth is a beat for beat copy with different names for the gods.
But also, I could be wrong, but it almost looks like there was a fault here, because we have these layers repeated right up here. It's I've been told the geology of this place is complicated, but Jesus.
Yeah,
So-
What
very
area
well
is this?
could be.
Is this the Morrison Formation you said?
So this is a place called the Coyote Basin in eastern,
Okay, this is a basin.
or well in Wyoming, and it's basically the area I have to search to try and find the original resting place of the fossils under my care.
Ah.
Oh, it's
But
like
if
a
you've got a
geological
tour guide-
detective story.
Yeah,
Kinda.
gotta Sherlock Holmes it out. But now you've got a witness. J. Warner Wallace would be pleased.
Right.
Yeah,
Join
and
us for another exciting edition of Unsolved Mysteries.
I not for long, because like this is a 10 square mile area here, but like what I'm doing right now is chopping that down.
So,
Because basically anything below this yellow line, I don't have to look at.
so is the red outlining where the Cloverleaf deposits are?
Yes. But like the thing is, I can't see where the Morrison starts in here. It's frustrating.
Ooh.
Maybe there are just a few
As-
outcrops of it visible.
It was
Maybe.
it was Megatron. He traveled back in time, took the form of a T-Rex, and then tried to destroy mankind so that the humans could not help the Autobots defeat the Decepticons.
Yeah, I remember Beast Wars.
Just destroy this valley and everything in it. The human race shall never have existed.
Well, that's actually kind of a valid relative analogy to what we were talking about with the flood. Back in the old days, the term world had a different meaning. It meant the area in which you live, not like the entire planet, because nobody
Right.
knew that we were on a planet. If you
World
said,
maps were a lot smaller back then.
exactly, like to the Egyptians, the world was the Nile Basin. The land went
Right.
on, but that was something else. That wasn't the world.
In which case, the local river flooding its banks and covering the wider basin, that would seem like a global or a really big flood in that context.
Yeah, and if they called it a worldwide flood, and then later translators went, oh, that means global, there you go.
Ah.
Of course, sources like, I think, AIG and of course their
Answers in
comeback
Genesis.
is like Answers in Genesis. They come back with like, well, if it was a local scale event like that, then why do you have to bring all the animals onto the ark? Why did it say that specifically? Like why why couldn't he have just brought in all the local animals, that sort of thing. So, but I think
That
in different cases, it's just
Yeah.
reading too much into it from a modern perspective.
that's honestly something that still somewhat confuses me about that story, because it's like, obviously we're discovering new species every day. So
Oh yeah,
if he has to fit every single modern animal, that's including all the species we have yet to discover, plus all species that are now currently extinct.
right. And that's even if we're ignoring all the plants and the insects and whatnot that don't have lungs.
And it's another
Mhm.
thing that somewhat bothers me is like, currently we've been able to map the genomes of many different species, and we have yet to find a genetic bottleneck where basically the population of a species was reduced down to less than 5 members.
Yeah, when it gets that low, it's extinction pending. It's just a time delay on
Yeah.
extinction.
There are some papers that are out there that they claim support that idea. Of course, the dates don't work for them. That there was a population bottleneck of all these species, but when you actually look at what the researchers were finding there, assuming their results were accurate, I know other people have kind of torn into this particular paper that I'm referencing. Uh, it doesn't really suggest a glacial bottleneck like the authors were thinking. So the creationist case in this for this particular scenario in this particular paper kind of falls apart.
I love
So
this
yeah,
view.
suffice it to
It's
say,
like
there is no
flying.
evidence of a bottleneck.
It's like, either
Hey, Grayson.
Yo,
Yeah,
A
howdy, howdy.
vast.
sorry I missed the start of the stream. I got on as soon as I could.
hello,
It's fine.
Grayson.
It
No
basically
worries.
started with me leaving to go get my laundry.
Riveting. All right, so that you're doing the mapping right now, I see.
Yep, working on it.
I was also scoping out the area a little bit, but far less rigorously on Google Maps earlier.
It's
Yeah,
it.
you're coming on the trip too, yes?
Yes, sir.
Oh, congrats.
We still need to find where the Lystrosaurus's arc was.
Huh?
We need to find the Lystrosaurus arc so that way we can prove that
Oh.
dinosaurs were not rare enough to be mistaken for dragons.
A lofty order.
Because,
Yeah.
like I said, the creationists don't want you to know that Lystrosaurus actually took over the Earth after the flood.
Yeah, that was a whole interesting period in Earth's history.
Yeah.
They
Well-
also don't
yeah,
want you to know that Beast Wars Megatron and Sailor Moon were both involved too.
Oh
I
yeah,
really,
the further you go back in time, the messier it gets, because fucking everybody's involved back there.
Because, you see, the reason why the human genome didn't just super bottleneck was because Sailor Moon actually took some of the righteous people to the moon.
Oh, so it was like a pre-rapture.
Not
I
really,
guess
because
so.
the moon was just like Earth, but
that sounds
moon.
wrong, but I don't know enough about Sailor Moon to debate it.
Nor do I.
Yeah, me neither.
But then Beast Wars Megatron kidnapped her.
So, Doc, have you already gone over all the announcements and everything? And you had
Yeah.
mentioned earlier that you had been in contact with a paleontologist who claims he'd have known where Lentil's femur came from.
Not lentil. I don't know if I've actually shared the name of the femur publicly. I have decided to name the femur Garbanzo
Nice.
So
because it's a bigger bean.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently he knew the guy who originally found it, and they used to go out in the field together, and the guy who found it showed him where it came from. And yeah, sure enough, it's from the Coyote Basin. And he knows, well, he doesn't know the exact place because it was just kind of a, hey, it was in that valley over there kind of situation. But he knows like the rough part of the basin that it was from.
Do we know what
that's
genus it
huge.
is by any chance?
Do not, at least not yet.
It's a
Femurs?
sauropod femur, I think.
Yeah, we know it's a sauropod. That's the only thing it
Okay.
can be.
Yeah, for it to be that
Femurs
size.
are pretty diagnostic, but we need it all the way out of the jacket to really study it. And unfortunately, until we have a way to stabilize the femur without the jacket, it's really not a good idea to fully remove it.
So we have the humerus belongs to Lentil and the femur belongs to Garbanzo.
Yes. So 2 individuals.
Gotcha. And Lentil's the juvenile and Garbanzo's the big boy.
Yep.
All right, on the same page. And so the location of Lentil, which is the one that has the fault line running through it, right? Then that is still a mystery.
Yeah, that one is still a mystery.
An unsolved mystery.
Dun, dun, dun.
Is there a way to figure out like where the fault lines in this area are located to like narrow down the search at all?
So yes and no. The Coyote Basin is a pretty well-known area, and actually I just realized I haven't looked yet to see if there is a map of fault lines in the area. That would probably help with mapping.
Well, if we know that there's a fault line running through our fossil, it seems that would be a very important clue to narrow our search, right?
Yeah, it would. Let's see, here's a ResearchGate article that just popped up.
By the way, how fast are you traveling there, Ember?
In
What was
my
that?
graphic?
Yeah, you're traveling pretty fast through space there.
She's traveling
Oh,
at
yeah.
ludicrous speeds.
Well, we don't know if those are stars or they could be like motes of dust and ice.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay. I would have to do a bit more. I'll have to do a bit more research to see if I can find a fault map. But as is, let's see. So we are pretty dang sure that Lentil is from the Morrison Formation. And formations can be split into members. So like a book has chapters. As is, it appears that Lentil is probably from this upper member of the Morrison Formation, which is where a lot of other famous fossils are found. And what that means is that we only really have to look in rock that looks like this, that has a boundary with the Cloverleaf.
Is the
which I'm working on
Cloverleaf
mapping it
formation
out.
Jurassic or early Cretaceous?
Early Cretaceous. So the mapping is going to be a bit complicated because I have to go through this whole bit. But the Cloverleaf beds are really distinct, and the Morrison layers we have to look through are just beneath it. And then, what we have to do is go out to those areas and just look. The big thing is we don't know where exactly the site is, other than it has to be in that member of the Morrison. If we find a site with juvenile sauropod remains, it should be pretty easy to match it to the data we have from lentil.
Hmm. Speaking
It's
of
just a
that-
matter of finding a site.
Speaking of faults, when I used to live in Cedar City, there was like this area within the town where there was this chunk of rock that had like a fault that ran right through it.
Yeah, that happens.
Hey Doc, I just sent there's this website database that I don't know if it's gonna have it in high enough detail, but there's a fault map of the whole state of Wyoming.
Oh,
That you can
okay.
kind of interact with and zoom in and out of. I just sent the link in the private chat there. We may be able to, because it looks like it goes into a decent amount of detail.
Sure.
You can open that,
Well,
yeah,
that's-
and then you have to open it into another window. I think mine took a little bit for it to load.
Yeah. Let's see what it's got. Let's see. Where is it? Relative. I saw Grable on the map. Okay. It's gonna be about there. Skip. I don't need no tutorial.
I skipped it too.
Okay. So shell. Let's see. Shell, Grable.
Yeah, you can
There's
kind of see there's
Beaver
not
Creek.
many options on their list here of fault lines.
Yeah, okay, here's Coyote Basin. Actually pretty nicely outlined. And yeah, it looks like there are two major faults. Yeah, there. I was just looking at that a few minutes ago. Yeah, okay, that explains why there's Morrison Sundance contact right there.
Well, that looks like a pretty prime suspect.
Yeah, looks like at least in the main area. Well, there's a little bit over here, looks like. But in the main area, there shouldn't be many faults. Might just be complex folding. Because, like, the main area of what we're working with is kind of outlined by Beaver Creek over here. And these are the only two faults really listed. Which is good to know. Actually, it's there. That's more top-down view, like this one is. Back.
Somewhat random question. Do we happen to know what mechanism produced this particular basin, the Coyote Basin?
Honestly, just mountain building. This is
Okay.
on the western edge of the Bighorn Mountains, which is actually right on the leading edge of the Rockies.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see the Rocky Mountains here.
I also had a quick question for you, Doc, based on something you said earlier about formations versus members.
Yeah.
I know formations in general are mappable units with distinct lithologies. So in that case, how do you distinguish or define members within a formation? I'm just curious.
So it's kind of the same deal. So generally speaking, the members of a formation are how you diagnose the formation. And it's usually the specific sequence of the members that really makes it obvious.
So
like
it's
right
kind
here,
of more
we
bottom
have
up
the
rather
red
than
members.
top.
Well, we have like the red member of the Morrison here. We have this like a yellowish gray member of the Morrison above it. This specific sequence, you're only really going to find that specific sequence with the lithologies within it in the Morrison formation. And that package can be found basically all over the western US. And that package is also overlaid by some of the members of the Cloverleaf, and it itself overlies members of the Sundance Formation.
So it's more like the relative sequence of these distinctive beds that are members within a formation. That's the formation that you're mapping across the different areas, basically.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I was thinking of it in more top down when I guess it's more bottom up approach. So that's interesting. Thank you.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I think the Cloverleaf formation contains Deinonychus, I think.
It does.
Ah.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we might find some Deinonychus material while we're out there.
So I'm presuming that there's some... I'm presuming there's like a unconformity here, because like the Deinonychus remains are only known from about, 110 million years ago, while most Morrison deposits are 150 million plus.
That's actually a good inference. Yeah, that's correct. It's hard to see from a top view like this, but there is an unconformity between the Morrison and the Cloverleaf.
Ah.
In this case, you could only tell the unconformity from the fossil sequence, right?
That's part of it. Also within the Morrison and in the Cloverleaf it's pretty frequent to find ash in there. Thanks to the building of the Rockies, this area experienced a lot of volcanism, so there's plenty of ash you can use for dating.
Oh, ash!
And...
I for some reason I thought you said hash. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah,
like, that makes much more
sense.
sense.
Ash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did the Rockies start to form? Because I thought the Rockies were relatively geologically young and started forming around the early late Cretaceous.
So
Or is that just like a specific mountain building event of like a specific part of the Rockies known as the Laramide? Because like I know there was like
that's the Laramide orogeny.
Yeah.
North America actually contains a bunch. Wow, it would be great if North America contains a bunch of different mountain belts.
It's always interesting how you can find like orogenies
there we go.
within orogenies, like where
like the
mountain belts like the Appalachians
range on the east, which is from I think the Triassic and Permian.
Oh wow, Kid Learn with Professor Bananas.
Is he related to Professor Peel?
Maybe. But yeah, this should make it fairly distinct. There are different mountain ranges in the western US, and a lot of them formed different times. I believe the Rockies, like the Rocky series, is from the Laramide orogeny. That specific orogeny was in the, I want to say, middle to late Cretaceous. I think the Sierra Nevadas were Cenozoic, but I could be wrong on that. And then the Cascades are currently forming. I think the Cascades are the youngest members.
Pretty sure aren't the orogeny that produced the modern Rockies were kind of exceptional, because like the plate that was subducting or under the North American plate, I believe, was at a shallow angle.
I think it was the Farallon plate.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's why the Rockies are so far inland, relatively speaking.
Yeah, the Farallon plate and the Pacific plate both. And yeah, here's the different mountain ranges. They all formed at different times. It's kind of crazy.
Do you know if we find any examples of that elsewhere in the world, of like mountain ranges that are not quite on the coast like we would expect?
I mean, the Himalayas go really far inland.
That's
But
true.
like the Himalayas also mark where the two tectonic plates merged. So like
True.
I think Andrew's
I-
question could be better formulated as like mountain ranges forming far away from any like fault lines or anything.
Yeah,
or
like
far
like
from
tectonic
any
boundaries.
tectonic
Yeah.
boundaries.
Yeah.
let's see. I'm thinking. Maybe some of the Eastern European mountains.
Okay.
Because like
There's a really complex series of relationships. Let's see, mountains of.
I guess it depends, because I know you can get mountain ranges from both continent plate collisions and subduction events. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
you
Ural
can.
Mountains aren't they on a tectonic boundary?
Sorry, here we go.
Yeah, Europe and Asia are all mushed together right there.
Yeah,
like
here you
Europe
go.
and Asia are also the same tectonic plate.
They are now. They are now. I think that's post Pangean. But yeah, there's a bunch
Yeah,
of mountain
there was
ranges
like,
in Europe. Some of them pretty far inland.
There was Euramerica and Siberia. Siberia was its own continent.
it's just a fascinating idea to me, that like the modern continents we see are basically a patchwork, and they haven't all the individual pieces haven't of continental crust haven't always been in that position altogether. That's just so fascinating.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Hello, Mom.
I'm not sure what all is going on here. Looks like this. This looks like more Cloverly overlying more of the. Like, I'm pretty sure that's the Sykes Mountain. This is the Cloverly. And this is looking like the upper members of the Morrison. But this is also Cloverly. So weird.
Hey, since you're here now, Grayson, did you happen to catch the discussion me and Doc had with T-Rock the other night on SFT's channel?
No, I can't stand listening to T-Rock.
You and me both.
So
Has he fixed his microphone yet?
So who?
No.
It was pretty low.
So what was
Are you
the
talking about?
gist?
I'm confused. Which channel are you referring to?
Standing for
SFT,
truth.
Standing for Truth.
Yeah.
Oh, them.
Yeah, I usually just
And-
abbreviate it.
Donnie is
Yeah.
standing for truth, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
but we're
Yeah.
referring to a specific interlocutor who makes frequent appearances on SFT, T-Rock.
T-Rock.
You know, the guy who
Okay.
always sounds super overconfident and
He does, yeah. Especially about geology. It's
It's what we would
it's just
describe
me.
as chronic engineer brain.
Oh, that's
he
insulting
refuses
engineers.
to admit he's wrong about anything.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them do too. So I don't know if that's unique to him.
I mean,
I
yeah, I'm
think
not
it's part
saying
of
it's special, it's just irritating.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
it is, yeah.
to be a evangelical at that level, you have to have this underlying presupposition below your presupposition layer that you are absolutely right.
If I recall correctly, his hypothesis, shall we put it kindly, about the flood is like a specific ad hoc brand of ecological zonation, where
It's so bizarre.
whatever the results are, then he'll like that we see in geology and paleontology, he'll try to figure out some kind of bizarro land environment that he thinks maybe could have produced some pattern like that. It's like it's completely ad hoc.
I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on what he said to me about this, Grayson. I kind of mentioned it earlier. Well, actually, two things. So the first thing was when we were talking about raindrop impressions preserved in the rock
Mhm.
record, which we know need semi-cohesive sediment and obviously dry air for them to dry. He like when I mentioned to him that like the sediments, if they were during a global flood, would have been saturated with water afterwards, and you need to get that water out for it to be applicable here, to have these imprints preserved afterwards. He gave this weird scenario. I don't know if it's like even physically possible, of because of supposedly he said because of continental sprints, which we obviously know that alone doesn't work. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the rapid movement of the continents, somehow the water was separated from the sediments, like rapidly forced out. He called it, and it became he likened it to a centrifuge, a giant centrifuge with the sediments on the bottom and the water on top that would just trickle off the top afterwards, and that's how you get these dry-ish sediments for stuff like trackways and raindrop imprints. It was like so bizarre, and like I said, I don't even know if that's like mechanically possible.
Well, a centrifuge is achieves its separation by like rotation. I
Right.
mean, it. But he's just talking about these continents making a beeline at extremely fast velocities. I don't know how that's going to have any kind of centrifugal effects.
Yeah, he just
It
mentioned
would
like it due to like fluid flow or something, which I don't
yeah,
know how that could produce something like that.
it would produce a lot of heat, and that maybe might
Right.
heat the water out of the continents. But you're going to also have a whole lot of other problems from that heat.
Right. And I actually commented on that video. This was the second thing, was what he briefly mentioned the Navajo sandstone, which conventional geologists obviously think is a aeolian deposit, windblown sand desert, and his description of it makes me think that he doesn't actually know how aeolian deposits are produced, because he described the cross-bedding seen in the Navajo sandstone as, according to secular geologists, as due to fluctuations in wind currents or something like that. And he said the wind medium is it doesn't have enough momentum to produce these kinds of cross beds, whereas water, because it has a lot of momentum, it keeps flowing in the same direction and can move a lot of stuff at the same time. And that, like,
So
from
does he just
how I
reject?
understand, it's just that's not at all how these sand dunes produce cross beds.
Does he just reject aeolian formations outright? Like he's saying that wind cannot form like
Yeah,
these
I
deposits?
think he is saying the Navajo sandstone is not aeolian. It was water transported,
Well, I'm not.
supposedly.
I'm not asking specifically about the Navajo formation. I'm saying in general, does he reject all aeolian formations?
I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but
Because I
he
mean that would
didn't
be important to
specifically say
know.
that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like if
Sorry.
he accepts some aeolian formations, but he just says that the Navajo isn't one, then I would want to know what's substantially different about the Navajo formation as opposed to other aeolian formations.
Right.
Maybe would he say the crossbed angle, but I don't know. But if he just is saying that there's no such thing as wind deposited formations, then that's a whole other problem.
Yeah, because I know they like to target the Coconino sandstone as well.
Yeah.
And I know he's it was like in a comment thread going with an actual stratigrapher on a separate video. He was I can't remember his exact words. I was just reading through it because I found the back and forth kind of amusing. He said the alien case to be made for the Coconino specifically was like was of course he thought it was wrong, or he thought it was unsubstantiated, or some like I said, I can't remember his exact words, but like what Doc was saying earlier, the overconfidence of T-Rock in regards to anything geology, which to me at least seems like he doesn't understand much of it, at least sedimentology.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Where are you guys going?
Caden, could you mute your microphone? Yeah, I think that T-Rock talks about a lot of subjects that he doesn't have the background in. He has said multiple times that the fact that he's an engineer means that his grasp of reality is so sophisticated and nuanced that he basically understands like all materials. Essentially.
That's always the thing, isn't it? Why are so many of them engineers? It's
Because
weird.
they design things, so they see design.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just engineer brain. I mean, it's similar with physicist brain. Like something about being an engineer or a physicist just gives you so much confidence that you just understand the universe better than everyone else, and you start making sweeping comments about other fields that are not your expertise. And like this commonly happens in physicists, engineers, and Nobel laureates.
I mean, shout out to Tap for not being like that.
And
yeah, I mean, yeah, there are a lot of physicists who are better about that. So
yeah, it's by no means happens to everybody, but like they literally, I mean, you know, for the Nobel laureates at least, they specifically do have a name for it, like Nobel disease.
Yeah, I have heard of that.
Oh.
I would argue for a more expansive Nobel disease to encompass physicists and engineers.
Hope to see it, Caden.
I think even though it's not strictly correct with regards to the academic publications, but I think we colloquially refer to that as the Dunning-Kruger effect. You know a whole lot about one thing, so you assume you know a whole lot about everything.
I feel like it's subtly different than Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah, because I think that Dunning-Kruger is not necessarily about you being an expert in any one particular field. I think it's just like you're so ignorant that you think you're knowledgeable because you don't know what you don't know about a specific field. This one is like your expertise in one area makes you feel like you're an expert in all areas. So I think there is a slight difference.
It's the Jason Lyle effect.
Yeah.
Sorry. This stuff
I'm an astrophysicist who sucks at astrophysics, so let's talk genetics.
Yeah. And even the comments that Lyle makes in his own field of expertise are completely asinine, like the two-way speed of light whole nonsense.
Mm-hmm. That's my personal favorite.
Started on that.
Oh man. Sorry, Doc.
I am being flummoxed. So what I think is going on here, because I don't think this is a fault, I think we have Cloverly here. This kind of more rocky looking stuff, I think, is the Sykes Mountain. And then I think there's just other strata above it. So basically this whole hill can just be chopped out of the equation. And I'm just trying to figure out where all the boundaries are. Sorry, you guys can go back to your conversation. I'm just like,
actually,
I need to verbalize my frustration so they make sense in my brain.
So
Oh, yeah.
how are you? You probably already explained this, but you're looking for the Morrison formation between two different members, right? Or you're looking for a certain member between two others. What are the? Are you determining this by color here on this map?
More or less. So, the
Is there an
contact,
area so far where it's like really clear and illustrative?
right here actually is pretty good. So let me get a good side view. So you see how we have these kind of purpley gray
Yeah.
rock up here, and then we have this flatter kind of. Oh wow! Thanks Google. Flatter kind of yellowish green here.
Mhm.
So this is a contact between a very fine sandstone. That's why it's a bit more solid and defined, and a really soft mudstone, which is why it's more kind of lumpy. It's hard to explain in a map view, but there's a textural difference here.
Probably takes a trained eye, kind of.
Let's just say I spent a lot of time looking at rocks. Um,
That's fair. Yeah.
Okay, and then go
Anyway,
back to that hill that you're having the questions on, because it looked like from both like the north and the south, it gets a little confused in that area.
Sure. So here's a good side view of the layers. So what appears to be happening is the layers are just kind of flat here. We have that Morrison exposure. We have the Cloverleaf. There's a bunch of big rocks here. That's characteristic of a rock layer above the Cloverleaf called the Sykes Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any field experience with anything above that. So I thought, oh, maybe there's like a fault here and the Cloverleaf's been upthrusted onto itself, but no, it's very consistent all around the hill. So it looks like this is just an overlying formation.
And then go.
It just has an initial similarity to the Cloverleaf.
Keep going to the left there because you had marked the other side of this hill as well, right?
Yeah, I marked part of the other side. But like, you see how the Cloverleaf is, it's like a darker, more gray, because I know this is Cloverleaf. This is more like bright purple and red. But like the modeling had me confused at first, because the modeling is similar, but the colors are distinct.
So that
and-
more like purpley red, is that the same as on the other side that was above the
It appears to be, because like this boundary is continuous, and then this is covered by it's called scree. It's eroded material that just falls down hills. So it's covered by scree here, but it appears to be laterally continuous. Here, it's easier if I show it more flat. Like that.
No, I can see that they're on the same level there.
So the beds appear to be mostly flat. So even though there's this huge chunk of rock here, it kind of splits two different search areas.
Yeah.
But that does mean that it cuts out a significant portion of the map, because all of this appears to be above the Cloverleaf, which is huge for a potential search area.
And then where were those two fault lines? Because weren't they in that area?
They're here-ish.
Oh, right.
And
where's
there's
Cloverleaf?
There's a repeat of the Lower Morrison here. It's also here.
Okay, I'm excited to get. I'm so excited for this trip, man. Although there is
learn a lot of rocks.
Trees.
What was that?
There's a concerning lack of trees from what I'm seeing. Not much shade.
No, there's not going to be. I recommend genuinely a sombrero.
Well, I am a Texan, so I will be bringing a cowboy hat.
Yeah, I recommend a sombrero. And as weird as it sounds, You're gonna want big baggy clothes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
Like I have a jean jacket I got while I was out there last time. I'm gonna be bringing that, and I got some real baggy ass pants.
There aren't too many cactuses out there, are there?
Oh, there's cacti everywhere.
No.
There's just tons and tons of cacti. You
Wouldn't
actually got to you got to be
baggy
careful when you
clothing
sit
be
down because you're
detrimental in that
yeah
game?
got a pretty good chance of setting your hand on it. I did that like 4 times.
Oof.
4
Let's just
times.
say I'm not fond of cacti.
Look, you go out in the field for like 5 weeks and you're out there every single day. You're gonna do it.
You know that the needles of a cactus are actually like the leaves. Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Modified
Pretty
leaves.
neat.
yeah, very cool.
The stem is the cactus. It's so cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I like cacti.
I think they're neat. They're just sharp.
Yeah, you admire them from a distance.
Right. I appreciate them as plants, but I have had less than good experiences with them.
Okay. Sorry, this area here is interesting. So it goes from flat to like a fold upwards. There's there's
some trees.
a syncline running through this area. Sorry, maybe so geology words. You have synclines and anticlines. It's a description of like the orientation of a fold.
Folds and folds.
Well, I mean rocks fold. Here we go. Yeah, synclines, the fold is down. Anticlines, the fold is up. It's basically just troughs and crests in a sinusoidal pattern.
Whoa! You're not suggesting that rocks can fold without being soft and wet, are you?
I very much am, especially considering. So, look at like all this red here. All this is Morrison. That's relatively flat. And then on this side of the hill, look how thin it is in comparison. There's that red layer, and then here's a more yellow basal member of the Morrison. And then this is Sundance. Again, this is the underlying layer. It's right there. It's that has to be up at like at least a 30, maybe 45 degree angle at some places. Jeez.
So it's like this whole landscape folded then, basically.
Yeah. Actually, there's
cool.
there's a good model of it over here. So this
it makes sense
weird
it's near a
oblong
mountain range.
shape is called Sheep Mountain. I did a lot of field work out here. This is all, I think, Permian to Cambrian strata.
Oh, I remember this one.
And you just see a really nice anticline running all the way through. And then you see the rock layers. They are just kind of flat. And it just keeps going. The rocks are really nicely folded out here, so you just get a really good illustration of the rock layers in the area. Just like this. You have what's called the chug water down here. The chug water actually it stains really easily. I have clothes that are still stained from chug water material.
Oh shit.
That's overlain by this kind of pink stuff. This is called the Gypsum Springs Formation. And what's special about it is it's made of stuff called porcelainite. It's natural porcelain. It's really cool.
Ooh. Is it
Huh.
shiny? I bet it's shiny.
It can be if you clean it. Then you have the Sundance, which is kind of a shallow sea environment. I think you can find stuff like plesiosaurs and ichthyosaurs in here. And then, is there a good illustration of it?
What kind of depositional environment would the chug water be in, by the way?
I think it's like semi-subtropical, maybe even tropical paleosol.
Oh, okay.
So, like, it's a developed soil horizon that just happens to be like 300 feet thick, I think.
Oh, wow. Well, that actually answers another question I was going to ask you were there any paleosols in this area? So there we go.
Oh, yes. You got paleosols in the Chugwater, you have them in the Morrison and the Cloverly, I believe. And then, it's funny, right here, you have something that overlies the Sykes Mountain, I believe. We call it the Oreo. It's just
does look
three
like an Oreo.
small. It's three different formations, just packaged together. Let's see. I think it's the Thermopolis Shale. And I forget what the other two are. But it's like Middle Cretaceous, and apparently there have been some really good ocean reptiles discovered in there.
I feel like we are distracting you from your mapping objective.
I'm taking a mild break from the pain.
I will say this I think is a good example of how complicated geologic rock units can get away from the kind of layer cake geology that you see at the Grand Canyon, especially near these kinds of folded mountain ranges. Like, this is a pretty good example.
I mean, I've said it before, geologists are all insane, and there's a good reason for it. Rocks drive you crazy. Like, here's probably one of the most clear-cut examples of the local geology. This is an area called Poverty Flats. And you go from those oceanic sediments I was talking about earlier, and it just rises up into this dish. Man, I remember I had to map this. And it doesn't look that high, but it's a good 200-300 feet from the top to the bottom.
Oh, goodness.
And a lot of this material has clays in it. And it's this type of expansive clay called... I think it's Montmorillonite or something like that. But it expands like crazy when it gets wet. Like, it can hold... Like, for a given volume of the material, it can hold 10 times that volume of water. It's crazy.
Oh, wow.
And it forms this weird, what's called a popcorn texture. And when you step on it, your feet sink in like 2 inches.
Oh.
With every step. And it is exhausting to walk through.
At least you made it out alive.
I barely. So I was out there for, I think, 5 weeks total. I lost 40 pounds.
Oh my god.
Now, granted, I had some let's call it pandemic weight put on that I'm still working to get rid of, irritatingly enough. But yeah, it was simultaneously one of the best times I've ever had in my life, and complete and utter hell. And I'm signing up to do it again.
Oh dear.
Oh, and then over here you have Devil's Kitchen.
Oh, real quick, Doc. Katina had a question. How long would it take for that much sediment to deposit? I don't know which part they were talking about specifically. If you can clarify, Katina.
Yeah, sorry, that was. That depends. Because keep in mind, all of this sediment is post lithification, and a big part of lithification is compression.
Right.
So, what may have started as, I don't know, say 500 meters worth of sediment can compress down to like 50 meters of sediment or less. So all we can really do is, like, say we have two ash layers going through the sediments. Like, let's say one here and one up here. And this one dates to 85 million years old, and this one dates to 80 million years old. Well, we know it took 5 million years for, I want to say that'd be, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 meters of strata. But again, that's post-compression. So it's hard to say what the original sedimentation rate was unless you have a really good understanding of the lithology. Then you can do some equations.
Yeah.
Because
Or
we can
you
do
could just
compression
say
experiments.
It was, all in one global flood in a single year.
Sure, that would explain these deep sea environments,
Yeah.
shallow sea environments, terrestrial environments, deep sea environments, and shallow sea environments. That
And that
sequence.
looks more like sea level changes to me.
What? Well, yeah, you'd get sea level changes with a global flood, wouldn't you?
Oh wow! Sorry, I
I've
just
actually
unlocked
had
a
people-
memory from. I just unlocked a memory from the day we spent out here, because we had to climb up all this and then back down in a day. I very nearly passed out right up here. Yeah, I think it was on this hillside. I almost passed out from the heat, and I don't think dehydration, but it was brutal. And then had to climb down through here while taking measurements, and then just down the hill to the cars, which were I think like a mile or two away, because they wound up parked over here.
Goodness.
Yeah, like I said, simultaneously best time of my life and hell. I'm not sure how.
I don't like it. No one likes it, but sometimes science comes at a price.
Oh, I don't like it. I love it, but it's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you love it, and it is mean to you.
Yeah, that's true.
It does its best to murder you.
Yeah. Or just one thing on what you said, Ember. I believe it or not, have actually had. I think it was like even T-Rock mentioned this in our discussion. Like several creationists who actually do think marine transgressions and the sequences correlated with those. That those would be expected under a global flood too. So that's an actual argument we hear.
Well, fuck. I was just being silly, but I mean, I guess just making shit up and being a silly goose is how you be a creationist. So there's that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
where is this in relation with the Bighorn Basin?
It's in the Bighorn Basin.
Okay,
It's on the eastern side. Let me.
because I found a figure from a scientific publication of a geological map of this area of Wyoming. It's not very detailed, but it does show a fault line right along the eastern boundary of the Bighorn Basin.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. What I'm outlining in red right here is generally regarded as the Bighorn. Yeah, it goes from Lovell to Thermopolis to Cody.
Okay.
This big sock shape.
Yeah, the figure from the study, I put a link to it, but it's not very detailed, I would say. But you see the BHB right there above what's labeled as Warland, for BHB for Bighorn Basin.
Big HB.
Yeah,
I see
there.
BHB. Oh, duh, there's Wyoming.
Yeah. So they have the eastern side of the BHB here marked with a fault line.
Let's see here. Orient to north. Let's see here. See, it's cut
And
off here.
Warland is just south of Graybull.
Warland is?
Yeah.
See, Manderson. Oh, there's Warland. Okay. So it'd be right up here. Yeah, it's kind of tracing this actually. It doesn't super surprise me, but I think wherever that is, it's way to the west of the Coyote Basin. Yeah, I think that's to the west of the Coyote.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, it wasn't a very detailed mapping. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good find. It's just it's tough to tell without more landmarks. Yeah, I don't know, Al. Maybe we should call up Ken Ham. I don't know. You think any of the YouTube creationists would help fund this?
No.
I don't think I'd want to take their money. It'd be kind of funny.
Unless we're looking for a rabbit in the Cambrian, I don't think they're gonna fund it.
Or rabbit in the clover, though?
Yeah, I mean, if we tell them that we're trying to find pre-flood human remains in the Cloverleaf, then yeah.
So there's this big area of Morrison over here that, unfortunately, I think it's basically all on private land. There's just a huge swath of it on this side of the mountain that's basically all Morrison, as far as I can tell. But then over here, it's a lot more constrained. You know, duh, I can check. I have a land ownership map. It doesn't say who owns it, but it does say if it is owned. If it loads. There we go. Yeah, like that whole area, of course. Actually, I think most of this is part of Howe Ranch, part of the Howe Quarry. Which honestly, I want to see if I can go see it. Do you know about the Howe Quarry, Grayson?
I do not.
So you know the American Museum of Natural History?
Yes.
Basically, all of their Morrison fossils came from in and around that one quarry.
Hmm.
And it was like right around here, I want to say. It was first discovered by, I think it was the Browns, like Barnum Brown and his wife, back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And ever since, it's just kept spitting out really incredible fossils. In fact, one of the more recent ones was a baby Brachiosaurus.
Oh,
Aww.
The first one, I think, ever
Nice.
discovered, which was
Like one of those-
huge.
one of the rare, one find of a lifetime places for fossil hunting.
Yeah, and it just keeps spitting out new fossils. And
Okay,
has
so who do you
been
got to
for
talk to
centuries.
go there?
Well, I can ask the local geologist I know if he could help put me in contact with the owners. From what little I know of them, I think they're open to
Hey, Robin.
geotourism on their land. But, obviously I'd want to be sure before going there.
Yeah.
Well,
Alrighty,
Also,
what is it,
because
like
of this
you-
fault line, like there's just a double thick chunk of Morrison over here.
and you're planning on getting there in 6 weeks ish?
Ish, yeah.
Then yeah, definitely make a note to reach out to that geologist friend of yours tomorrow.
Yeah. The place we'd be staying at, they're letting me go there on the 16th. That is the currently agreed on arrival date.
Of June.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, definitely message that local geologist tomorrow asking him about those if he has a way of getting you in touch with the landowners.
Because, let me toggle this again. Even if we don't get permission to go there, there is still quite a bit of land that we can look at. So that's good.
Yeah, but you
There is also stuff.
just spend a couple minutes selling how replete with fossils this one private land is, so it's at least worth the effort to try.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm just saying. All I'm saying is, even if we don't get permission, there's a crap ton of land to still look at.
Yeah.
Hey, Doc, you mind bringing this comment down?
Oh yeah.
It's been up there for a while.
Whoops. And let's see. We haven't
Details.
gotten anyone new.
Alrighty, folks. I got to scoot. Work in the morning and all that fun stuff.
That's fair.
Nice seeing you, Amber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
enjoy
I always
the-
enjoy
the
being on
crazy-
panels with you, Ember.
Sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always fun. And Doc's got
Have
cool
a good
music
evening.
today, which I enjoy. But yeah,
Yeah.
good night, folks. I'll catch y'all later.
See ya.
Bye.
Have a good one. And then there were free.
Yeah.
A random, another random geo question for you, Doc. What are some telltale signs of erosion when you come across a given unconformity? or at
Sorry,
least
stretching.
certain types of unconformities?
Well, there could be a few things. Let's see, first thing to look for is just a really sudden shift in the lithology.
Okay.
Because if you kind of notice, down here the beds grade into each other. It's a bit harder to see on, like, from a bird's eye view, but there's a really sharp contact between the Upper Morrison and the Cloverley here. You'll also often find like a just super sharp change in like a grain size from one area to the next. That can be a sign that there was an erosive event like a flood or just continued erosion, and then deposition resumed in the area.
Yeah,
Really, if you're in the field, it's just sudden, sharp changes. And then you can confirm it, hopefully, by a dating.
okay. Yeah, I was just curious because one of the arguments I often hear from creationists is that sharp contacts are evidence that there isn't any erosion there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Wait a sec, there's like a
I'm not
little
an expert
anticline
on
right here. Sorry, there's this hillside is so funky. The more I look at it.
What is the name of the little creek there? It's not Bighorn River, is it?
No, it's this. Nope.
Because I found another publication from
Beaver Creek.
Beaver Creek. Okay, yeah. Because I found another publication from Stanford with that fault line from the blast figure that was labeled RT. That's the Rio thrust. So I'm not sure if. Okay, but it looks like it's along the Bighorn River. And Sheep Mountain. I don't know where that is relative to more to the northeast.
Sheep Mountain's right here.
And where
it's just north of Grable.
Yeah, where's the area we're looking at here?
The area we're looking at is over here north of
farther
Shell.
to the east. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, let me.
This is still a pretty interesting paper that's going over like the fault geometry beneath Sheep Mountain. Going through like the history of the formation of the fault lines and stuff, this Rio thrust.
Let's see, looking at it. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a big fault going through here.
Here, I'll link you this the PDF of this paper just so you can peruse it and see what I'm talking about. It looks like, I mean, they've got some pretty cool figures. But it's, I guess, too far to the west of our area of interest.
Yeah. Maybe going through there.
Yeah, I put the link in the private chat for that.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember. Where was it? There was a mapping project we had to do in this area.
So you've been to Wyoming on multiple field excursions at this point?
No, it was one excursion. Well, it was a field camp it was sort of the cap off to the geology program I was enrolled in. And we just spent 6 weeks in this area of Wyoming, examining a bunch of different stuff that we'd learned about in the classroom and the field. You got to see fault lines, layering, anticlines, synclines, all kinds of stuff.
Get your hands dirty up close and personal.
Yeah. Hands-on field experience.
Yep.
Let's see. Boop, boop. What geometry between sheet mountain and anticline? Oh, okay. Huh. It's interesting. This kind of train track almost kind of seems to follow the Rio thrust. That's kind of neat.
Where are the Bighorn Mountains on the Google map? Is that
right up here? Actually, I think this is
It's like-
edge.
almost the area of interest is on this little scheme in the study? It's like almost.
Yeah, there's like a thrust right down here.
That
Or
did that
no,
show
it'd be
up in
right
the
over
other
here.
map too?
Wow, sorry, my brain. No, there's a thrust right over here. And then I think this is just showing the curve of the Bighorns. Interesting.
What kind of music is on your playlist for this dig?
Well, I don't think anyone's added music so far. Though I usually listen to, like, I mean, go figure, I'm a geologist. I listen to a lot of rock.
But
Yeah, I know, but all geologists listen to rock. But everyone I've met listens to at least like old rock.
Is it soft rock or hard rock in this case? Aha.
Both, though I do have an appreciation for heavy metal. Just not in my drinking water.
Right.
Actually, I remember when I first came out here, I had just learned of this Mongolian rock band. No, more metal band called The Who. Like THEHU. They were really good, and the music fit the environment really well.
Wait, so was the Who the band or the formation?
The band.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, their music really fit the working out in the desert. And I listened to a lot of it.
when you're out there, do you listen to your music in headphones or a portable speaker?
Speaker usually. It's a good practice because even though they're rare, there have been bear sightings down here. So
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt to have music playing just in case. Also, so like you don't sneak up on somebody, they can hear you coming.
Yeah. It's like
Just
driving on
combat
the
etiquette.
road, but with rocks.
Who do you think? Well, I think it's probably a pretty obvious answer of a black bear versus a Deinonychus.
Black bear versus Deinonychus.
Yes, I think black bear.
Actually, it might be a bit tougher than you'd think, because
Could
I
go
mean,
either way.
I think Deinonychus mass estimates for the larger individuals can go up to like 150, 200 pounds.
Wow.
Bear
So even though the
versus
bear
Utah
might be a
raptor would be
bit
another
bigger-
story.
Huh?
I said bear versus Utah raptor would be another story.
Oh yeah, that'd be a bloodbath.
A big grizzly bear, not a black bear.
Even then, probably still a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Like I think Utah raptor's mass estimate is as heavy as a polar bear.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good fight.
Probably more agile than a bear in both cases, though.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Probably for one reason, because of those feathers.
Yeah, extra cushioning.
Do you think, I know that this isn't, well, maybe not a likely possibility, but do you think there's any good chance that your leg bone discoveries here, Doc, might be a new species of sauropod?
It's unlikely, but I will say that teenage sauropods aren't, or like large juvenile sauropods, but just juvenile sauropods in general, aren't super well represented in the fossil record. It seems that sauropods mostly grew up really quick.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's like based on their growth lines too.
yeah. So like they're
So
I feel like it could be important to science, but
Either way.
I don't think it could be a new species. Well, I don't. It is a low probability that it's a new species. That's a better way to put
Fair enough. Would
So
be
is-
exciting though.
is everywhere that you're marking in red a path that we will be walking?
it. What I'm marking in red is just the boundary between the Morrison and the Cloverly.
Yeah.
But like what I'm trying to do is sort of get an outline for the Morrison formation, and I have to go with like the bottom of the Morrison and the top of the Morrison in this area, and then fill in the gaps. Then I'm gonna go through again, and from that area mark out the sediments that match what I am working with. Because there are different members of the Morrison, and I know which members that Lentil is probably from, and that helps narrow it down.
You said it was
Sign
in the upper, right?
Most likely upper, though that said, it could also be. Honestly, it's funny. It's probably either the lowermost section or the uppermost section, because the middle Morrison in this area is this reddish color. But what I'm working with is much more like this kind of pale yellow green sandstone, not orange. So that knocks out a huge portion of the Morrison in this area. But
Star Sun makes a good point here that there could be some preservation bias against juvenile sauropod fossils due to predation.
yeah, that's true. And also just usually younger animals, it's harder for them to fossilize because their bones are less mineralized than the adults.
Yeah, true.
In general. Not always, but in general. At least with vertebrates. Which, I mean, I guess what other group has bones?
I wonder if it would be interesting if the survival likelihood of sauropods in general, or maybe at least some of them, might be like a funny shaped curve where it could be really high as or the mortality rate could be really high as very, very young sauropods, and then it decreases a little bit, and then it increases a little bit for slightly larger sauropods, maybe under like a few years of age, because they're bigger, so they can't really hide as easily, and they're also a bit slower. And then afterwards, it just gradually decreases from there as they get larger and larger and become land whales, basically.
I mean, yeah, it seems to be kinda.
That's just an intuitive guess on my part.
Because from sauropod nesting sites that we have preserved, like an individual would probably lay dozens of eggs like every breeding season. So a lot of those babies are going to die because there's just not enough food in the ecosystem for that many adult sauropods.
Yeah, they seem to be R selected.
Honestly, yeah, which is fairly unique among dinosaurs. Most dinosaurs seem to be more on the K selected end of the spectrum, with exceptions.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like this is a pretty good start for mapping, though. I'm gonna have to refine this a bunch, but it's a start. But I've been live for a couple hours now, so
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I certainly got a flavor for this area, at least. I got an idea of the kind of, hellish environment we will be bathed in the sun in.
Prepare, Grayson. Prepare.
It's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and it is going to be toasty.
What's your idea for like a schedule for like how many hours a day we'd be in the field
per day? Honestly, get out there as early as sunrise and leave a little bit before sunset. So, minimum 10 hours a day, probably closer to 12 or 14.
Carrying like a bunch of snacks and water and stuff.
Yeah, bring lunch into the field, bring extra food just in case you get lost. When I was at field camp, we would take at least 3 liters of water with us every day.
And what's your favorite in the field meal?
Okay. It sounds weird, but a bologna sandwich with Miracle Whip.
Okay, I mean, I'll try anything once.
It because okay, it has meat, It has a sauce and it has bread. It's not
Right.
bad warm, and
Yeah.
it has enough flavor to get the grit taste out of your mouth.
I might try to make a batch of pemmican. I feel like that could do well.
I don't know what that is.
It's an Inuit hunting food that my dad would always make when we'd go on camping trips. It's basically like you take something like dehydrated meat, kind of like beef jerky, and you blend it up into like a fine powder and congeal that with fat. So it basically is just pure fat and protein. It's like just a bunch of energy to keep going. I mean, the Inuit will bring just pemmican on like months long hunting expeditions because you can subsist off of like pemmican alone for like weeks and weeks. And it's very, very energy dense. Like just a couple pinchfuls will sustain you for a while.
All right then. I mean, keep in mind there are 2 towns nearby with grocery stores too. But having a backup survival food is never a bad idea.
It's also just probably my favorite food. I think
Yeah,
it
that's
tastes
fair.
great.
Fair
That's
enough.
fair. But I will say, thanks for joining us tonight, folks. Hope you enjoyed getting a glimpse as to the glorious life of a geologist planning an expedition.
Maybe learn some cool geology trivia along the way.
What you don't see is me taking my computer to work tomorrow so I can continue this during slow times. So I'll probably do this for another 4 hours tomorrow.
Ah,
Uh,
good luck with
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'll try. I'm also see, I'm debating. I'm not sure because rattlesnakes are pretty common in the area. I'm not sure if I want to buy snake guards or try and make my own. Because it shouldn't be that hard.
Well, the great thing about rattlesnakes is that they let you know when you're nearby.
Yeah, there's that at least.
As long as they know you're coming. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, usually they're, I don't know.
Which is also part of why you will always have the music playing.
Well, yeah, but with the music playing, sometimes you don't hear the rattling.
True. I don't know. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard, right? Like maybe some aluminum sheeting and just padding, right?
I had a roommate whose girlfriend in college, her dad would hunt rattlesnakes like as a hobby, and
Hmm.
he
Poor
would
rattlesnake.
get really drunk doing it. Like he would go out in the desert and like put back like 12 beers and come out with like a dozen rattlesnakes in a burlap sack.
That
I
sounds
just feel bad
perfectly
for the
safe.
rattlesnake.
Yeah. He was a little crazy.
Yeah, just for the record, no, I'm not gonna be doing that.
Please don't.
Yeah, he didn't use any snake guards, but he also wasn't playing any music.
For you and the rattlesnake's sake.
I've
do
come
that.
across a couple rattlesnakes on hikes before, and they've always let me know that they were there. You always hear the rattling, and you're like, "Oh, okay, let me get out of your hair."
See, when I was doing field work, there were 2 days out of the like 30 field days that I heard a rattlesnake. 2 days, 6 times total. 5 of those were on one day,
Oh wow.
and then just one a couple weeks later, and no other sign of a rattlesnake.
You scared him away.
I mean, apparently. Anyway, again, thanks for joining us, folks. Y'all have a good evening.
Have a good one, y'all.
Da-da.